As you can see on my channel, I've built a lot of Final Fantasy Commander decks. So today, we're going to look at some of them that you might not expect to see being so powerful because they're overshadowed by so many, but some of them can still be fantastic. So in no particular order, I'm going to start with Squall, Seed Mercenary. Not only is Final Fantasy VIII one of my favourite Final Fantasies, but this is actually one of my favourite cards from the whole set. And you don't really see him very much because I think people mistake him for just purely making an aristocrat's build, where an aristocrat's build is basically putting lots of stuff into the graveyard, things die, you can get them out again, stuff like Ripples of Undeath and other resurrection cards. But with Squall, you're actually building decks are crossed two vertices, basically. You're doing that, but you're also reviving things from the graveyard by attacking with a big creature by himself. So I can see why people would get overwhelmed by that. But once you understand the cool loops you can do with Squall, it actually gets kind of silly. Being able to revive two things when he does damage to people is just ridiculous. And then if you combine him with any of these swords, which give him protection from colours, it means he can get in, deal even more damage, get further triggers, and then revive even more things that were put there into your graveyard from a previous turn, perhaps by something like Palantir of Orthanc, or even using the Doom Foretold to put lots of stuff in your graveyard and get them out. So yeah, definitely think Squall is one that you should take a look in. And of course, the video is on my channel, so take a look at that as well. The next card I want to look at is Bther Fran. This is criminally underrated, and it has one of the most unique abilities, I think, in Magic. Whenever a vehicle crewed by them this turn attacks, if it's the first combat phase of the turn, you can pay 3 if you do after this gain an additional combat phase. I think this is one of the easiest triggers to enable extra combat steps I've ever seen, and it is really ridiculous how little I've seen Bther Fran being played, maybe once or twice. But basically, for 3 mana plus 3 mana, you get an extra combat step, and anything with haste is just going to be ludicrous. There are some really great vehicles in the game at the moment. Sky Sovereign, console flagship, got the Weatherlight as well. Anything that flies over the top is great because it just means it's evasive, it won't die in combat. There are Galia, you've got the brand new car from Final Fantasy 15, which lets you ramp out further lands on your deck. So I would definitely take a look into this. It was just super fun, and red-green is weirdly one of my favorite combinations just because it's got so much ramp, but it's very unique as well, being able to combine it with artifacts, which is something that people don't normally do with red-green. It kind of shies away. So I would definitely recommend using Bther Fran, and as usual, the link will be in the description. This next guy, Kefka, could be my favorite of the bunch, and it's honestly quite overwhelming how little play we see of him. And I think that's because Vivi is so prominent and Tifa, and they're two of the strongest cards in the format. But Kefka, to me, is a new and improved Nicol Bolas. When this came in, each opponent discards a card, then you can flip him. But the flip was always risky in case people killed him. However, now, especially in paper multiplayer formats, if this comes in, each player discards, then you draw equal to the card type's discarded, which is really ludicrous. And although you can flip him for 8 mana, the cost is so much easier. It's just 8 generic, which I feel is a bit less flavorful, but it's a bit nicer to flip him. But even if he doesn't flip, he is still put in the work. If you compare this to the original Bolas, of course, if you don't flip him, he's just a 4/4 fly. But Kefka has a triggered ability on enter and attack, which I think is I think this is the modern era of Magic where everything is going to be enters and attacks now, which is I call it the Titan ability, but honestly, it's crazy. And then if you do manage to flip him, anytime an opponent loses life during your turn, you draw that many cards, which is insane. If you just have literally anything, this is already going to hit for 5, draw 5 cards, and with a really nice Grixis shell like mine here, I think you'll get a lot of success from this, and I'm actually in the process of potentially making this in paper. I just need a few more pieces, but please give this video a watch as well. Now, some of you might not know this obscure boss from Final Fantasy 1, and not only is the art absolutely incredible, I think he's definitely one of my favourite unsung heroes from Final Fantasy. I have not seen a single person use him, and I think that is a crime against humanity. I don't think people understand how insanely good Sevel one is. Sevel is definitely my favourite ability in the game. Think of that what you will. It gives you so much. It takes away a crappy draw you'd get next turn. It puts something in the graveyard that you want to revive. He also revives himself from the graveyard if he was to die. But think about this. You can play him so early. You play a bit of ramp afterwards, which then surveils him. You put something like a Summon Bahamut in the graveyard or a Valgavoth, and then you use Reanimate for 1. So basically, by turn 3, you can get out any of your biggest, craziest things. And by the way, the Reanimate will also trigger the Sevel, which means you could put something else in the bin and then revive it later with something bigger, like Rakdos joins up, which is ludicrous as well. This card is a super technical deck. It actually feels quite Grixis in nature. It does feel quite blue, which is strange to say for Rakdos, which is normally more aggressive and, more punchy. But this is honestly super amazing. And the fact it has two sides, it can be used in the graveyard, it's so good compared to so many other uncommon Final Fantasy cards. This is just a league above, and the art as well by Billy Christian is insane. So just really great. This is definitely one of my favorite cards, and you should give it a go. And finally on my list today, again in no particular order, they're all very fun, Tidus Blitzball Star. Now this is something when you initially look at it, you think, that doesn't look so great. But you know what? After using this guy for a few games, you start to realise how crazy he can be. Because it's basically an artifacts matter deck, so you could have things like Mendicant Core in it just to make your artifacts come out and copied and everything gets bigger. But the sheer fact, whenever an artifact comes in, you can tap a creature an opponent controls is so good. Firstly, people are not going to expect an aggressive Azorius build. So there aren't actually any counter spells in this deck, really. It's like a magic damper. So you'll play him, you'll play a number of things that create artifacts, and you want to find things that create more than one. For instance, like the support Skyforge, when this comes in, this creates 4 servos, right? So that's 5 bodies that comes in with support Skyforge. This is going to get 5 triggers, and if you were to put a Panharmonica in the deck, which there isn't, or an Alish Norn perhaps, you would get so many counters, and you can tap so many of your opponent's blockers. Now, think about that for a second. It's an uncommon that can literally one-shot, two-shot your opponent late game. And then, again, with a lot of decks, you can enhance them with Voltron-style cards like swords or other things that matter when you hit your opponent. But honestly, this was really fun. And I remember the video I had on my channel, it was like one of the longest games I've ever had. I think it was about 35 minutes. So it's very enjoyable if you like a game of chess. It was a very tactical game, and there was a lot of backwards and forwards from him. But yeah, putting counters on stuff, and the fact that a lot of commanders say, this only triggers once per turn, but Tidus doesn't care. He can do things as many times as you like, and it is just ludicrous. You can also go super flavorable by putting the Lucas Stadium in here as well to actually give him a game of Blitzball with the actual Blitzball, which are artifacts. And this is one of the nicest things about Final Fantasy X. There's a lot of cool supporting flavorful cards that also are decent to use in the hyper-competitive Historic Brawl format, which is just, a format that is so strong right now. But there are still ways to have fun. You just have to kind of think outside the box. And this is exactly why you are on my channel, to see interesting, fun commanders that you might not have thought of. So if you appreciate what I've done today by showing you some cool secret tidbit commanders, then don't forget to drop a like and subscribe. And if you want to go further, you can become a channel member. And there you will get a unique perk of having your own video created for you. And I'll call you, shout you out as well. So yeah, please support the channel. And if you want to watch some of the links that I'm going to put in my description, which are going to be links to all of the commanders that I've suggested, created, playtested, and had fun with. So, enjoy.